back to my channel. I know that I missed last week's second video, but things got a little hectic here. So, as you guys know, the last video I did was this Opal cup, and of course I couldn't just leave it alone and leave it how it was, so I decided to do a peekaboo. So what I did was I bought some files from Bear Trends Design on Etsy, and I went ahead and uploaded them to my computer. So when she does the files for these, she has them in JPEG, PNG, and SVG. So you'll see I got the layered fuzzy leopard, which is my fave. She's literally my favorite person for the leopard print. She's amazing. So I took the SVG since I wanted it to be layered, and I uploaded it to my Cricut. And then I also took a file from her that was Be Savage, Not Average. And I also uploaded the SVG version to my design space so that I could cut it out with my Cricut. So when I did these, I did not film this part, but I realized later that I had cut the Be Savage, Not Average wrong. And what I should have done was spliced it as a whole. So what you're going to want is the blue version of the Be Savage, Not Average, and then you're going to want to slice it and then have the outline as well so that you can do the offset. I forgot to do that in the video because I wasn't thinking, and then when I cut it, I was like, wait, this isn't going to work. So, what I did was I got it down to size and design space. I did it I think I did 9 at first, and then I decided to change it to like 8.5 or 8, and I felt like that was good enough. Then for the layered fuzzy leopard, what I did was I cut it to be, first I sized it to the length and width of the cup just to have a good feel, make sure I had enough of the leopard print. So it was 10, and then it automatically resized. I just messed around with it until I got an amount that I wanted. So I ended up doing the height at 11. So the yellow part here, which I end up changing to blue, I'm pretty sure, that is going to be what you're going to put on the cup. The black portion is what I'm going to cut out in the vinyl that I want it to be. So I did matte, regular, black, Oracal 631 vinyl for the black portion, and then I did white for the blue of it because I'm going to end up spray painting my cup to make the peekaboo. So once I cut all of these out, I went ahead and sanded my tumbler because there was a few bumps. It wasn't quite smooth enough for a peekaboo. So I used 120 grit sanding block, sanded the mess out of this tumbler. I mean, I ended up slipping, like breaking a nail at one point, I'm pretty sure. But I didn't want to have that on audio because you can hear me cuss. So I sanded it to be as smooth as possible. And then once I was done sanding it, I went ahead and cleaned it completely off with some 91% alcohol in a cotton round. Now, because there will be epoxy over this, I didn't bother putting epoxy on the layer first and then doing the decals. So the decals that I'm going to put down, or the vinyl that I'm going to put down first, is going to be what I'm going to spray paint over so that that's what is showing. So first I did the Be Savage, wow, I really can't say this in this video. Be Savage, Not Average. I put that long ways on the cup because I wanted the leopard print to go around that. So I laid it down on the cup the best I could, as straight as I could. I kind of eyeballed it. And then I went ahead and started laying down the portion of the leopard print. So the way that I did the leopard print is I just took the same transfer tape, which this is the Tech Wrap transfer tape. After using this for a little while, I actually do not recommend this transfer tape. Personally, it kind of leaves behind a sticky residue I'm not a fan of. My basement was pretty humid the other day, and because of that, it ended up leaving behind some sticky residue, which was a pain to get off. So I do not recommend this this transfer tape. I think I might go back to my Cricut transfer tape, as I've had zero issues with that other than it being pricier than other transfer tapes. So once I laid that down, I basically just pieced together all the little bits. I do recommend spreading them out just a little bit further because once you put the black portion on top of it, it does clutter up a little bit. But it was too late at that point to even worry about it. So I pieced it around the bottom, trying to keep it in somewhat of a pattern. So when I do put the black pieces over top, I know about where I grabbed them from. If that makes sense. So I wasn't doing too many of the black pieces that wouldn't make sense. I then added some to the bottom, took it outside, sprayed it with some Rust-Oleum flat white spray paint, and then I wanted to try something a little different. I have this DragonflyGlaze. I got it off of Amazon forever ago. I used it to paint cardstock for scales for a dragon tumbler, and it looked pretty cool, so I decided to paint it over top of this and see how it went. Now, I probably could have done a second coat of spray paint prior to doing this, but I kind of wanted to see what this Dragon Glaze was going to do. Now, it is a little bit pricier. It's kind of like a gritty paint. I don't really know how to explain it. It's not as easy to spread, but it is technically like a glaze. It says that you can add another layer after like 4 hours. I did not. I just did one layer just to see how it went. I think it would be cool to see what it would look like over black spray paint versus the white spray paint. So that might be an experiment that I do next. But it also says that it cures in like 24 hours. Now, I was planning on throwing epoxy over top of this right after it dried. So in like 2 to 4 hours. But I got busy and it actually took like 3 days for me to come back to this tumbler. So it was completely dry. But I wanted to take all the vinyl pieces off prior to the paint drying because I didn't want the vinyl to be harder to get off due to the paint over top of it. So I pulled all of that off. Now, if you're going to do another layer of this Dragon Glaze, I would do another layer and then take the vinyl off. But completely up to you. They have different ones. This one was like a rainbow where it like is iridescent. You can't even see it in the video. In person, it's way different. And once I'm done with the tumbler, you're going to see it in the daylight. So once that completely dried, I went ahead and added 20 milliliters of CCDIY Fast Set with a little bit of blue alcohol ink in there to prevent yellowing. And then I went ahead and did my outline for the Be Savage, not Average. And then I also added the black portion of the leopard print. So again, I'm using the Tech Wrap contact or transfer tape. It's terrible. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a fan. But I added this on there. I do recommend doing this in pieces, which I did not do and I should have done to make sure it was lined up. I did end up ripping the S a little bit in the Savage portion and had to kind of piece it back together. And because the lines were so thin, I would recommend using like CCDIY Quick Coat over top of it just to make sure that it doesn't pop up when you epoxy over top of it. So take your time, be patient, don't do what I do and rush it. It's what I do every time. See, that ended up ripping. Be patient, take your time. There's also the parchment paper trick, which I think I've shown on videos prior. But completely up to you. Just take your time. Once I was done with that, then came the guesswork. So I went around with my scraper and my contact paper and started where I knew I started and kind of worked my way down and around the cup the best I could. If you need to, you can move the pieces around. You can, if one of them doesn't fit where you think it should fit, then put it on another piece. There's so many options on this design alone that you just do what you gotta do. It doesn't have to be perfect. They're leopard spots. Leopard spots aren't perfect. So I went around and did this and placed it on every single little piece. I really like how it turned out with the Peekaboo, and I'm excited to see what it looks like in the sunlight with that DragonflyGlaze. Glaze. Wow, I really can't talk at all today. And then once I finished with this, I went ahead and added 20 milliliters of CCDIY Fast Set Epoxy and also do the quick coat if you feel like you need to over top of the decals to make sure none of them come up. And again, if you do the quick coat, make sure it is completely dry before you add epoxy, or else you will get like a white substance that is created because you mixed it with the non-dry quick coat and epoxy. I don't know. It just doesn't work. Just let it dry first. Be patient. Don't be me. And then I sanded, and then I went ahead and added another layer of epoxy. Now, I will have another video coming up with this cool tool that most of you have probably heard of, and me, I finally just jumped on that train of a Dremel to clean your edges. I'm going to have a whole video separate to that, and it's amazing, and I'm using this cup, so it's awesome. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have any questions, drop them below. If you want to see something, let me know, and I will see you guys next time.